We like to wrap up every Bullseye episode with a culture recommendation from me. We call it the Outshot. In Mr. Turner, Timothy Spall plays the lead, the legendary painter, J.M.W. Turner. And he says a lot of things, but none of the things he says are more expressive than this. And this. And this. In making Mr. Turner, Mike Leigh, the director, and Spall faced a great challenge. How do you convey the brilliance of a painter in a narrative medium? It's hard enough to make a biographical film about a musician, but I'd much rather watch somebody play guitar than paint. Do you watch the paint smear around? Point the camera at the wall and wait? It's basically an impossible task. But it's one that these great artists were up to.
Oh, my goodness me! Oh, Mr. Turner, I am quite overwhelmed.
Do as you wish, view as you wish.
Oh, my, these are breathtaking, are they not? My dear late father would have much appreciated them.
For one thing, there's this. Many of Leigh's films are shot very plainly. They're realistic, they're developed through months of improvisation, and they don't really highlight stylish camera work. It's a way of looking in on everyday lives. Mr. Turner lets us look in on a life here, too, but it's a visual life. And the camera reflects Turner's great gift, the manipulation of light. The sky, the streets, the sea all come alive, just like Turner's paintings. They're luminous. But then, in contrast, there's Spall as Turner. He's not luminous at all. He's squat and scowling. Not ugly exactly, but almost painfully unglamorous, the opposite of his work. He's like one of those knotty pine trees that grows on an oceanside cliff, gnarled and tough, barely able to speak more than a sentence or two. Every spoken phrase that comes out of his mouth sounds like it's being pushed out of a birth canal. It's a painful burden.
Good day to you, sir.
And a very good day to you, Mrs. D.
And how do we find you on this fair morning?
Exceedingly preoccupied, madam.
Was ever thus? You've always been preoccupied. You're too preoccupied for your own good, sir.
Nothing comes from nothing, madam.
And we have had nothing from you, sir.
But when the painting comes, it comes almost magically. Turner's depictions of the sky and sea are towering works of technique, spectacularly beautiful. He loved fires and shipwrecks and other maelstroms. And as the years went on, his sharper, more careful, more representative work became wilder, until a contemporary in the Royal Academy was moved to call them blots. At one point in the film, the Queen sees his work, and she says, "Ugh, a dirty yellow mess." The magic of Mr. Turner, the film, is that it shows us this profoundly pedestrian man, living at home with his parents, painting alone in an attic, unable to muster the social graces to sell his work, even when a patron arrives almost pre-sold. We think his face is scrunched up because he's bearing the weight of life, but in fact, it's scrunched up at the effort of transcendence. The plain, grumpy man pushes this paint into piles of roiling turmoil, flames and waves and heavy clouds highlighted by flecks and streams of his signature crystalline light. Leigh's camera pushes into and through the paintings, bringing their action and their details to life almost literally. The paintings and the film are textured and physical and almost corporeal. But so is the great artist's ugly life. Turner's mistakes aren't dramatic, like in most biopics. There's no central incident. There's no rock bottom, no smack addiction. Instead, there's a kind of thrum of grotesquerie. He's cruel to his housekeeper, who he uses for sex.
Your order came.
You send the cobalt blue?
Put it in a jar. Chrome yellow, scarlet light, lead white.
Canvases?
You put them downstairs for me. 2 6x4s, 3 4x3s.
McGill?
Next week.
He can't quite seem to square the circle of relating to the people around him, whether they love or hate his work. In his behavior, in his relationship with the world, he is an ugly man. But as the film continues with the passage of time, we see him gain some comfort and humanity in the world as well. A true human relationship blooms. The art, of course, doesn't justify the monstrous behavior, but we come to see Turner in a plain light, as a man with great flaws who also made great art. There's a scene in the film where he looks through a peephole into his own salon, spying on potential customers. In the movie, in Mr. Turner, we're given a peephole ourselves, a tiny lens that looks out at how art is made. That's my outshot.